Some people eat because they need to eat, and then there are those of us that really love food. And I want my food to be beautiful and smell good, and I want it to be just what I want. And the way to do that is to make it yourself. Yes, I like going to a restaurant and I like being waited on and all that sort of thing. It's a treat for me too, but restaurants are not in business to make you healthy. Restaurants are in business to have you come back again and spend more with them.
Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be encouraged, informed, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, best-selling author, certified leadership trainer, and book enthusiast Dom Brightman. Be sure to check out the goods and services from every guest, as well as some of the books from yours truly, the host. Now let the fun begin. It's your host, Dom Brightman, coming at you again, my friends, indeed, with another review from a wonderful listener of the podcast. And this one is from Maid of Grace. And she titled this review, or he titled this review, Timely Wisdom for Navigating Life. This podcast combines the depth of energy of an incredible host with the process insights from a wide range of guests to shape how we view life and ourselves. Thank you, Maid of Grace, for the great review that you left on the podcast page on applepodcast.com. And if you too want to leave a review, do just that. Head over to Apple Podcasts, or maybe even Spotify, or the website goingnorthpodcast.com. Leave a review and we'll definitely read it and highlight it in the future. Now let's get on with some super special awesome content. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of the wonderful PM in the PM site known as podmatch.com, because that site's freaking awesome, because it just keeps linking me up with some wonderful humans from across the globe. And this is a glam all the way from California, y'all, because today's featured best-selling author is a former actress. You heard that right, folks. A former actress, makeup artist, screenwriter, illustrator, legal journalist, and she's the current president of the Pescadero Foundation out in the good state of Cali, baby. So let's give it up for Miss LB herself. We're not talking about linebacker, but we're talking about the lovely and beautiful Lynne Bowman. How you doing today, Lynne?
Such a great intro, Dom. I loved it. That's super. Yeah, I'm doing good, especially now that I'm talking with you and your listeners. It makes me happy.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about. Happy like a pappy. But hey, sometimes happiness doesn't always stay. Sometimes there are low moments indeed, and I've heard you had a lot of low moments that you turned into high mountaintop moments indeed.
I've had my share, all that. Yeah. But I am here today to tell you and your listeners, one, how much fun it is to be old. It is, if you're healthy. And my latest book title is Brownies for Breakfast. So that kind of tells you how I think the fun way is to be healthy, right? Do you eat brownies for breakfast, Don? Would you like to?
Of course, the Lynne Bowman Brownies. Heck yeah. Heck, even Pottos are probably loving this title. Let me stop.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, is there's, and how anybody can be out there doing amazing things without taking care of their instrument themselves, their body. I don't know. You have to keep yourself tuned up for life. And sometimes that takes some hard decisions, right? Because we're all in this country pretty much addicted to crappy food. Yeah, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like they make it so easy to access the crappy food, and then they price it cheaper than the organic food if you don't grow your own food. It's like,
All
no,
that.
yeah.
And people need to understand that it actually is an addiction. It's not, that's not metaphorical. It's an addiction. Sugar is addictive. It's highly addictive. And all the things like white flour that are essentially chemically sugar are also addictive. I mean, so, and you've had decades of big food telling you how milk does a body good, and Wheaties are the breakfast of champions, and so on and so forth. And we bought all of it, right? We believed it. And so we ate all the crap, and then we fed it to our kids and our grandkids. And I just saw a statistic today that 74% of the young people who are of age to enlist in the armed services do not qualify because of their weight. Let that sink in.
Mm, mm,
74%. And when we talk about weight, and then people get upset about fat shaming and so on. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is health. And one of the indicators is, of course, if your weight is sort of in normal range or not in normal, quote unquote, range. That doesn't necessarily mean you're in poor health, but it sure can be an indicator. And so the armed services, and not that I'm here to recommend that everybody join up, I don't mean that at all, but the armed services cannot find enough young people who are normal weight to enlist, which, that's kind of jaw dropping, isn't it? I mean, 74% of people between 18 and 24, I believe, is the cutoff. And if you are out there just on the street, looking around, walking around, which we're not doing anymore because of COVID, right? But when we were walking around and looking around, what do you see? I mean, do you see everybody sylph-like and slender and muscular and healthy looking? Is that what you see?
very, well, I wouldn't say very few, but a little higher than that. A little higher. I wouldn't say, let's see, out of 100, let's see, I'd say around 35% of them slim and slender, I'd say, compared to probably 15 years ago, closer to maybe, I guess, 50, I'd say, like early 2000s.
Well, I don't have good numbers for that in front of me, but it's worse than that.
Yep.
It's really shocking. And the number of people who have chronic disease is 85%, 90%. People who have heart disease or diabetes or some form of chronic disease, which is largely preventable and curable and reversible, but nobody wants to do the work, Dom.
Oh yeah, the world now is built to make us not work. Just distract
Yeah,
us.
yeah. And it's interesting. I'm here talking with you kind of as an author, right? I mean, that's typically who you talk to and who you interview. So it's interesting to me to have written something. It's not my first book, it's my fourth book, but it's really tricky to get people to pay attention, because even though, I mean, literally in this 212 pages, I tell you everything you need to know to lose weight and reverse your disease and feel better and look better and all that stuff. Plus, it's an amusing read. It's a good read. All that you get, but trying to get people to actually read it, look at it, take the bait is hard, because so few people are really willing, ready to take it on, even though it's not hard. It's really pretty easy. And my approach is to do it with really yummy food. Huh? That's weird, right? So the snarky the snarky grandma diet includes cake and pies and cookies and brownies and everything, but none of them are made with sugar. And everybody has this kind of yucky feeling about what sugar substitutes are and how nasty they are and rah, rah, rah. And not true. The new ones are great and the food tastes great if you make it right. But getting people off of Oreos in pizza and onto whole plant-based food is big fat chore. There are a lot of us out here talking about it, but wow, people are very attached to their health habits or their unhealthy habits. And it's hard. Then you have kind of a bro culture that's happening now, gym guys and people who really care about their abs and, they want super strength and power. And so that's kind of a thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people just being healthy and liking the way they feel. So, but it's a hard sell.
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
think?
Oh, yeah. Definitely true. Definitely true. Because it's like the thing is, it's like the ease of disease. It's like, oh, yeah, if it's easy, it's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Actually reminds me of this darn meme I saw. It pops up every now and then on my feed. It's like, yeah, there's folks who pay like $30 on DoorDash for a darn $10 meal that'll probably give them thousands of dollars in health bills.
You're so right. And I talk about this all the time. And people say, well, healthy food is more expensive, isn't it? Healthy food. If I buy organic food and it's more, nah, and not even to mention how much the illness costs you. And the statistic is also, it's 80-90% of the bankruptcies in the United States are a result of health expenses. Let that sink in. People are all worried about cryptocurrency and their 401k and all this stuff. If you're not healthy, it's all going to go away. You're going to spend all of it because who has good insurance, who has good health coverage? Not you, not me. I mean, no. We pay cash basically in this country for our diseases, and it breaks nearly everybody. So if you make it to 90 or 100 without a chronic disease or without being seriously ill, great, good. You are unusual. That's not the case for most of us. And it costs big time. But just in terms, putting that aside, how much does it cost to buy healthy food or cook healthy food? No, I'm sorry. I'm one of the cheapest people for me, the word frugal is a big compliment. I am definitely way frugal, way frugal. So everything in my cookbook and everything that I cook at home pretty much is, let's say, well priced, right? But I'm someone who loves a good glass of wine and, I like to eat really well, but you just have to know how to do it. It's not hard to do. And people now go to, drive through Mickey D's, whatever, thinking that it's inexpensive food. I'm sorry. The last time I went just to check it out, was driving down Highway 5 in California. And I thought, I'll just pull over, to go to McDonald's and just see what they've got. First of all, the menu, I couldn't understand it. It was so complicated because back in the day, it was like you had 3 kinds of hamburgers and that was it, but you pay 15-20 bucks to get out of there with a lunch for one. By the time you get a drink and some fries and so on, it's not cheap. It's, by my standards, expensive, and you are eating nothing but crap. So hello. And when the whole pandemic thing started and people were saying, well, the shelves are empty, there's nothing in the store, people can't, you obviously were not in the produce department if that's what it looked like to you, because trust me, there was plenty of celery and arugula and spinach. That was never in low supply. There was always plenty of it. So, yeah. Do you cook, Don?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes my brother cooks as well. Like usually, it varies too. Like sometimes it could be like collard greens. That's always a favorite. Don't put the pork in it anymore. That used to be a big thing since I have some southern roots, but we don't do that anymore.
You don't put the
'Cause they,
pork in. Explain. I don't understand.
oh, pork, not fork.
Oh, the pork. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I
right.
used to, yeah, yeah, because of my family's southern roots, just put a fork neck in the darn pot of grease to cook it. But like, nah, don't do that anymore because that was unnecessary grease, and I tend to avoid pork, especially because of the animal that it comes from, because it's meant to clean the earth. So it's like if you're eating the stuff that's supposed to be cleaned from the earth, it's like you don't want to put the toxin.
Well, I am no longer strictly vegan. I have been for periods of time just to test and see how it affected my diabetes and what I thought. And I absolutely agree that if you're going to eat meat now, and you're going to eat pork, make sure you know a farmer that knew that pig's first name, and that pig's only bad day was its last one, and that the pig ate well. Which, and I can almost guarantee you that you're not going to find that wherever you're shopping for food. You have to really seek that out. But if you're going to eat beef, it needs to be grass fed, grass finished beef. And I have a lot of neighbors that grow that kind of beef, and it's really good food. But you have to source your meat carefully, and I recommend no dairy at all, which shocks a lot of people if you're in the healthy food business. But it's almost impossible to get cow's milk that is healthy. Cows are full of, this, they're full of antibiotics and growth hormone and all crazy stuff. And cow's milk is meant to take a 45-pound calf to a 2,000-pound bull in a few weeks. So, unless that's what you're hoping for, you might want to make another choice. Now, cheese is a weakness of mine, as it is with a lot of people, but I'm talking good cheese. And if you're going to cheat a little bit, have some great cheese, really great, not nasty stuff at the drive-through. That's not even cheese. So in a way, the snarky grandma diet is about just eating better food, good quality food. Don't eat crap.
Ah, so for those who may be listening, be like, oh, but I love cheesy jokes and cheese itself. Like, what's the best cheese to recommend from your experience?
Well, I love goat's milk cheese, sheep's milk cheese. I love something like a Spanish manchego, which is a cow's milk cheese, but it's aged and well sourced. And because to get the taste of it right, it has to be really great milk. And that's a treat. That's something you have every few months as you're out someplace and you can find this, or you go to here in California, there are creameries up and down the coast. And so you can go where the cheese is made, and Cowgirl Creamery is one in Northern California, and they make beautiful cheese. So if you're going to cheat and have some cheese, just make it good. They're all different kinds of wonderful cheeses, but don't eat, crappy cheese wrapped in cellophane in the Safeway counter. Go and buy it from a cheese person who's really into cheese, and that's fun. And it's kind of a dessert thing. It should be special on your plate. Are you
There
into
we go.
cheese, Tom? Are you? You love cheese?
I like it. I just don't eat as much of it
Yeah.
nowadays, to be honest. Like, I rarely,
And you
I
brought up
mean,
collard greens, which
yeah.
so many people don't know that this is the most beautiful leaf. It's this gorgeous, like a fan round leaf. I grow them and I use them to decorate my house as well as eat because they're so pretty. And collard greens make great soup, and I chop them up. We put them in pesto. There are a lot of, and it's good dark green. It's a leaf. It's one of the best things you can eat, but not if you've cooked it with some no-name pork for 16 hours. No, that's not going to be great for you. No, but
Oh yeah.
collard greens are spectacular. And I've come to them in the last few years. California, we don't do a lot of collard greens, but I hope to change that because I'm totally taken with them. I love them. And they look beautiful in my garden. It's
Ah, there
huge.
you go. That's right,
Hmm.
the power of green earth. So backtracking a bit, you didn't get all this wonderful knowledge you have today of clean eating to keep up your fabulosity where you look 20 years younger than what you actually are. So what led you to deciding to make the life switch to where you are today, where you're eating healthy and encouraging others to do the same? Heck, even giving and sharing recipes to others for doing what you do.
Well, it wasn't a switch for me, Dom. I found myself, as often happens to people, the single mother of three kids. And at the time, they were 2, 3, and 4. When we got on a train and came to California to start life over again. And I had been told I would probably become diabetic because I had what's called gestational diabetes when I was pregnant. And so I asked to be tested. And you probably know what a hemoglobin A1C test is. I hope you do. I hope have you had one?
Not yet.
You gonna have one? Because I'm gonna check on you.
Oh yeah, definitely nowadays with the way things are.
Okay. Because and this I'm talking about back in the 80s. They would say to me, well, you're not particularly overweight and you're really young, don't worry about it. I finally talked someone into giving me a test, and they said, sure enough, oh, you're into diabetic territory. So I had a big great reason to stay healthy, which was I was it for my kids. I was their sole support. And I was determined to stay on my feet and be healthy and take care of them. I was having to work all the time and be mom. So I just didn't feel I had an option. I wanted to be healthy. And then I realized that no one was going to help me do that. What the advice that they gave you in those days was, well, you might want to lose some weight. Okay. And don't eat a lot of carbs. Okay. And stay away from sugar. Okay. But that is not enough, right? Advice to have you eating well and cooking and purchasing food and so on. So it was a process. And I think part of it was wanting to be a good parent. And so my kids were always part of the process. They were shopping with me and reading labels with me, and they were cooking with me and cleaning up. I couldn't afford to just be, the lady in the kitchen who did stuff. We were a team. We had to do it together. And I think there was great benefit to that. And my kids thank me for that. Actually, they're all good cooks, and they can all keep house, my son included. And they learned about food, and I learned about food. And I think I just always love to eat. Some people eat because they need to eat. And then there are those of us that really love food. And I want my food to be beautiful and smell good. And I want it to be just what I want. And the way to do that is to make it yourself. Uh, yes, I like going to a restaurant and I like being waited on and all that sort of thing. It's a treat for me too. But restaurants are not in business to make you healthy. Restaurants are in business to have you come back again and spend more with them. And so what they do, which we would all do, would be to make the food irresistible to everybody, which means it's full of sugar and butter and fat and all the things that are no-nos for people like me who want to remain healthy. There are more restaurants now that have vegan offerings and that are on the healthier side and so on. And you can pick your way through the menu and find something for sure. And I'm being, of course, a little snarky about this, but the cost of eating out is stunning to me. I don't do it often, but prices have gone up in restaurants. Golly, I remember the first time I saw like a $16 cocktail. I was, oh my goodness, what? I thought they were like $8 and then they were $12. And now you go out and a nice cocktail, an artisanal martini or something is $22. And of course, you don't have one. Who has one? And all of a sudden, there's your mortgage payment. If in fact you could afford to buy a house, which nobody can anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you rent? Do you own?
Oh, me, definitely rent.
Okay. And rents are crazy. I mean, everyone, California is just super crazy. The housing market is absolutely impossible for young people. It's really rough. And you mentioned my foundation. I am president of the Pescadero Foundation. And one of the things that we've been working hard on for more than 20 years is to try and get affordable homes built. And it is well nigh impossible. And the last quote we had for 1 unit of affordable housing, affordable in quotes, $1 million to build.
Ouch.
Ow.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's probably a small sardine can of a house too, I imagine.
That's a small house, and that is not at retail, that's wholesale. That's the cost of putting it on the ground. So and we're looking now at tiny home possibilities and anything else that we can do that will put roofs over people's heads that is in any way affordable. And land out here, especially in the country, we have what's called prime ag land zoning, which means you can't build on it. The only thing that can go on that land is agriculture. So that the amount of land that's available to even build homes is extremely limited. And then the cost of doing it just makes it crazy impossible. Some people are managing to do some stuff, but I will admit that so far I've been something of a failure in this department. Not because I didn't try.
That's gotta that's gotta be disheartening a bit. It's like, oh, progress. Hey, we're making getting donations. Oh, darn, donations aren't even gonna make a dent. Okay.
No, I mean, this is, and even getting grant money and so on, just at $1 million for 1 unit. No, no, so yeah, looks like it's going to be tiny homes, folks, or although they're adorable and they're doable and they're a good solution in many ways, but you have to also get the land. So it's interesting too, Dom, that I've been a student of urban planning for many years as part of trying to do this and reading up on as much as I could. And can you guess the most proven successful model for an affordable community? What does it look like? What is it? Got a guess?
So the best model of affordable housing, huh?
Where people are happiest, low crime, people feel comfortably housed, where it's a safe community, all the things that people look for in a community. What is that?
From the
Is it,
outside looking in, I'm not sure if that exists, and if it does, it's not highly made popular at all.
well, actually, it's quite popular. And we were talking earlier about swamp rock, and one of my favorite swamp rockers, Paul Thorne, sings about this. He's got a great number. Trailer parks. trailer parks are throughout the country very successful communities where people know each other. They get along pretty well. They've got porches. They have company. They're safe. They have a roof over their head. They can usually walk to things. I mean, there are all these things, and we tend to look our snoots down a little bit and make fun of the whole idea of a trailer park. But in fact, it is a very successful housing model for seniors, for young families. It works. And now we have tiny homes, which are just sort of a designer bump up, from a trailer. But that's what they are, essentially, about the same size and the same kind of idea, but they're cute and sustainable. So yeah, as a culture writ large, we're working on ways that we can house people that are a little different than the old model. Used to be, we wanted, the 3 and 2 in the suburbs with a lawn, and well, can't have a lawn anymore. That's not sustainable, right? And driving from your house somewhere is not sustainable so much. You need to be able to walk and take a bike. So all of these things, and all of a sudden it becomes clear. And plus, is this true? Do you live in the city of Baltimore? You live kind of outside of Baltimore? Where do you live?
I live in the county close to the city line.
Okay, because you probably drive by some big old homes, right? Estates
Oh, yeah.
somewhere. And think about what it takes to keep up a place like that. It keeps us, you have to have a staff, right? Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And also think about, we always assumed that would be a cool way to live, and when you watch the reality TV shows, so on, how are those people? They're living in these big houses, right, with the grand staircase and the big, well, that's really not a comfortable, fun way to live. It's too big a space, and we humans seek cozier, smaller spaces to be comfortable in. We want to hear our kids in the other room. We don't want to have to talk through an intercom to find out where little Mary Ellen is in the house, right? And if you really think about it, having a mansion is not such a desirable thing, especially anymore, when you think about what it costs the environment and what it costs socially. It separates you from people. It puts you apart from people. And that's not a happy thing for the most part. We humans, yeah, we hate each other, but it's like families, we need each other, right? And we need company. We need to be with other humans for safety and comfort. Even, and again, Paul Thorney said, one of his great lyrics that I love is, half of the people I love, I don't even like. That's, I think, true of humanity, but there you go. Having a mansion doesn't fix that. People will be just as obnoxious in a larger space as they are in a smaller space.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess Twitter's proof of that.
See, 140 characters, you can be just as stupid and obnoxious as with a novel, right? Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Well, speaking of novels, you got this magical book, Brownies for Breakfast. So my goodness, out of all the items to choose as the main headliner for the title, what inspired Brownies to be the main treat of choice?
Well, that was the thing that everybody kind of had a fit over. And the reason I did the book, Dom, is because my kids said to me, Why aren't you writing this stuff down for people? You need to write this stuff down. You need to put, kind of the grandma thing. You please don't die without telling us how you do this, right? And so I thought, okay, that's cool. I will write it down. I'll do it. And then it kind of expanded a little bit, and it became pictures and some other things. But the brownies, who doesn't love brownies? Do you know what? Can you name anybody who doesn't love a good brownie? I mean, even a bad brownie is still good, right?
It's true.
But mine are fantastic, and they're made out of nut butter and pumpkin and real cocoa and monk fruit or another really good sweetener. I talk in the book about which sweeteners are great. No sugar, no oil, no flour. It's vegan, it's dairy-free, it's gluten-free, which is another thing a lot of people worry about now. Do you have to be gluten-free? A lot of people have to stay away from gluten. Do you
Thank
eat
God I
gluten?
don't have to worry about that.
Okay. But if you did, or if you had a girlfriend who was, gluten sensitive, you can give her these brownies and it's fine. So it's a representative food for me, and that I thought would be attractive to people. You can make these things in one bowl yourself, so easy. And it is a meal, a healthy meal. And it's not, they're about 50 cents a piece, even with all the high quality ingredients. Where can you go and get a meal, or even I don't go in grocery stores too much anymore, happily, but the price of the health bars, have you shopped for the bar that's a meal kind of thing? They're expensive. You don't eat those. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you did, you would be shocked at how expensive they are. So the brownies are a meal. They're yummy. They're healthy. They're cute. They're cute food. Everybody loves them. And people don't understand that you can actually make something like that yourself, and they're not expensive, and they're super healthy. So, that's a great way to lose weight and improve your health. Eating brownies, you can do it. The book also has recipes for donuts and pies and cakes, all these great things that you thought you had to give up. You don't. You just have to make them yourself with good food. And there are also recipes for savory food, soups and regular stuff. And it's all easy. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot, Dom, be healthy if you don't do some cooking. Somebody has to go in the kitchen and do this.
Yeah, you're right about the cooking. You're so right about the cooking. Like it actually, sometimes it even, especially the energy of the person, sometimes who may be preparing your food, like if it's off, like it even can transfer to the food, I've heard, and it actually makes sense. Actually reminds me of a past guest on the show, I think, Lorianne Spagna, where she mentioned how sometimes the animals themselves who are basically slaughtered, just that probably would explain some of the mental health issues going on because of the animals knowing they've been fed all these bad things that's bad for them, and then just
Right.
feeling bad and being slaughtered, then it transfers to us humans, and it's like, oh wow, so mental health awareness is required now more than ever, all from just, well, not maybe not all from just, but mostly from bad food choices and just from the bad sources.
Well, I don't have data on that. I have
Right.
plenty of anecdotal information about it, but none of us need to be eating animal foods in any quantity at all. An exception that I make is eggs, for example. Eggs are brilliant food. They're super healthy. The hen is fine if you take the eggs. She doesn't care. I mean, there's some of them that'll squawk at you and so on, and be careful. But what I say is, if you know the hen, if you know her name, if you know the name of the farmer who is feeding whatever, it's different. And eggs, you know what I'm talking about. When an egg is a healthy egg from a healthy hen, it's a different color than what you buy in the grocery store. The yolk is this beautiful, deep orangey color, and it's extremely nutritious. It's great food. And the book, great recipe for deviled eggs. Who doesn't love a good deviled egg? Mine are the best. I get to say that because I'm a grandma, right? Can I say
There
that?
you
That
go.
my
Of
deviled eggs are the
course.
best? Yeah. Okay. But you just don't need very much animal food to be healthy. You don't. We eat some fish, eat a little shrimp, and every once in a while I will have a piece of beef, as I said, from one of my neighbors, because I know I literally drive by the little cattle. I wave at them. I know who they are. I know who's feeding them, who's raising them. I know the grass they're eating. And it's a different animal completely than what you buy in the grocery store wrapped in plastic. And I put out recipes too for those things. Just put one out for a flat iron steak that is amazing and not expensive, so easy to cook, and it's in a salad. It's really good. And yeah, if anybody wants to sign up on my website, I mail out, not often, but when I got a great idea for something that's inexpensive, easy, super healthy, I mail it to you. Yeah. So yeah, I came to writing my book a little differently than a lot of people do. And there's no money in this, Dom. You talk to a lot of authors, and I'm sure many of them would agree with me. Very hard to make any money at all publishing anything these days. And I didn't go into it for that reason. I didn't expect to make any money, and I have not been disappointed. But it was a kind of a mission for me, kind of a crazy mission, because as we've already discussed, nobody wants to hear from you about how you should be eating healthy. People don't want to hear that. A few do, but many don't. The people who tend to listen, I've learned, are the people who have had a scare. People who've just been diagnosed with something terrible. Maybe it's diabetes, maybe it's a kidney thing or a heart thing or whatever, and they're scared, and they know they have to change or else. And the downside, diabetes is, and people have said to me, you pronounce it differently. People pronounce it diabetes, and I think out west a lot of us say diabetes. It's the same disease, and it's awful because most people don't know they have it until they've had it for a long time. And all this damage has been done inside to your blood vessels and your organs. And by the time the first thing that takes you into the doc to figure out what's wrong with you is erectile dysfunction, or you're numb, you've got tingling in your extremities and your toes and your hands. And what you don't realize is that's the indication that you may lose them. Yeah. Yeah. So, and these are the things that many of us don't even want to consider until we're older, right? Which older used to be 45 or 50. Now it's what, 65 or 70. I don't know. But diabetes is rough if it has been going on in your body for a while. So the people who tend to pay attention to my book and healthy eating are people who have walked out of the doctor's office going, oh, holy cow, what am I going to do? I don't know how to eat this way. I don't know how to. And we also know that Western medicine, allopathic docs don't talk about food that much. They don't really have a lot of nutrition. They don't have any nutrition training. They'll refer you to a nutritionist maybe, but they aren't real good at the food part of curing people. And so, and what they've always told me is, well, diabetes is progressive. It's a progressive disease. So it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, but it's progressive. And so I am here to tell you and your listeners that that's not true. If you do what I tell you to do, if you listen to Granny, you can manage it, you can stop it, You can even, as I have done, reverse it. I am now actually technically out of diabetic range. My blood comes back fine, good, you're clean.
Yeah,
Now,
sweet.
I know. So if I started eating real brownies, right, or big fat steaks that weren't grass fed or whatever, I would slip right back into diabetic territory, which at my age, that's, when they say, well, it's only a concern if you're over 75 and you're frail or you're compromised, that means diabetic. That's what they're talking about. So I don't want to be that. I want to continue to be mean and snarky for another 25, 30 years.
Mean and
Right?
snarky, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
How about,
And,
don't want to be friendly and snarky?
well, with people like you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But I definitely want to be out there making trouble for a long time.
Well, okay.
And hugging my trees that you and I were talking about, the redwood trees. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right. The big redwoods and the baby redwoods.
Yeah. So, yeah, once you lose the ability to walk or run, your life really changes. And I think that's what we all need to pay attention to is I want to stay on my feet, right? I want to be able to run toward good stuff and away from bad stuff. You're nodding your head. So I'm saying that because I don't know if your listeners know that. I don't know. Are we video too, or are we just audio?
Oh, we're just audio.
Okay.
I may use the video for like social media clips down the road, but yeah, we're basically audio.
Okay. So listeners, Dom is nodding his head. I'm telling you.
So speaking of running to the good stuff, you've been running to these wonderful podcasts. The folks have been having you on, and you've been answering all these wonderful questions and sharing the goods with others so they can have a good, long, healthy life. So is there a question that you wish you be asked more often when you're on these podcasts?
Oh, golly. No, I always want to hear from people. I love hearing what people's concerns are. Doesn't matter what mine are. I want to hear what people's concerns are. And I think most often what I get from people want to know if I'm vegan. And because so many people are vegan or experimenting with being vegan, and you can be vegan and be very unhealthy, kids. Being vegan is absolutely no guarantee that you are healthy because vegans eat too many refined grains, they eat sugar, they eat, I don't know, a lot of things that aren't necessarily good. So I eat a plant-based whole food diet. That's what I eat. I eat whole good food. And sometimes I do eat a little bit of animal food, not too much. And that's how you get to be old and snarky.
There you go, folks. That's right. The name of the game, old and snarky, y'all. That's right, the OS. That's right. Not the operating system, but old and snarky. Or better yet, be bold, never old, as some say.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Heard that from a past guest, I believe, Rico Cavaglia. He's like, yeah, you don't want to be old, be bold. Be bold, never old. I'm like, yeah, there we go. Because that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Be on the planet for a long time. Well, this question, we'll see what the answer is for this one. It's kind of interesting because the food's already in the title. But if your wonderful book, Brownies for Breakfast, was a food besides brownies, what would it be and why?
Well, it's a lot of food, Don. The whole dang thing is about food. Come on. Well, no, and that's wrong because I tell stories in the book. I do tell stories, and I was asked to tell stories. I didn't do that at first, and a couple of, when you publish a book, you put some of the early versions out with early readers, and they give you feedback. It's part of the process. And the feedback that I got from people was, where are you? Where's your story? And so I went back and put more of my story in it, and people seem to appreciate that, because we all have our food stories. And I talk in the book about how it was to be a young adult in the 70s, 60s. I graduated from high school in 1964. And, we were very concerned about being skinny. I mean, holy cow. If you were female, you had to be skinny, or you couldn't try out for these things or be those. You couldn't, the few jobs that there were where women had a good opportunity, for example, being a stewardess. And in those days it was stewardess, it wasn't an airline attendant or whatever, it was a stewardess. And if you got over 125 pounds, you were fired. That was just, nope, sorry, you're done. And a lot of people have read stories about the Playboy bunnies and so on and so forth, because as women, I couldn't go to Harvard because it wasn't co-ed in 1964 when I was looking around at what my options were. And that began to change a lot more dramatically after then. Of course, we're going back now. So stand by, right? Because this may be old news soon. But it was very different being female in 1964, being a semi-adult female, than it is now. And so I tell some of those stories in the book about all the crazy diets and how it was, and where I hung out, Palomino Club in North Hollywood. And I hope you'll enjoy reading it as well as using it. But I do want everybody to use it. I want it to sit open on your counter, and I want you to try some of these recipes. I have a lot of recipes in the book for soup, because Americans don't eat soup particularly. And soup is the greatest food. It's cheap, it's yummy. You can throw all kinds of vegetables in it and have it be just terrific, and you're happy eating it. And it can change depending on what you have in your fridge. So to go back to your question, if my book was gonna be one food, was that it? What would it be? What's that?
Yeah.
It's a soup, a potpourri, right? It's a mix of favorite things. I hope that you'll like soup.
Woohoo! There you go. It sounds super.
It is super, for sure. Yeah. Spelled with a U. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. Any actress stories in the cookbook as well?
Did I put any actress? Well, I was such a lousy actress. It wasn't even worth particularly talking about. And I actually enjoyed being behind the camera much more than being in front of the camera. And the truth of the matter was, in those days, I wasn't blonde, Dom, and I was kind of on the vertically challenged end of things. So the girls who were getting all the acting jobs were tall and blonde, or getting the good jobs anyway. So I realized right away that was probably not a thing that was going to work out well for me. And so I started doing the behind the camera kinds of things, and ended up then working as a creative director later on in my career, and for a number of years. And that was always fun. I was putting the team together and making the thing work. I love that part of it. But I was not a particularly good actress. And plus, I could never memorize the dang lines. I was always, I was always improvising, which, isn't necessarily a good idea, especially for the new kid, right? The young one. So, yeah.
Ah, well, good deal indeed. That's right. Well, no wonder this podcast has been fun on the bun, because improv is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, did a lot of that. Yeah. And not especially for good pay, but yeah, I did a lot of it. But again, back in the day, we didn't have a plan. It's like you just got work. And so if your friend knew of some, an opening, whatever, you went, okay, I'll go, I'll talk to him, I'll try that, whatever it was. And that kind of thing got me into all kinds of interesting and scary sometimes, stupid sometimes scrapes. But we just said, okay, all right, because we didn't have resumes, and we didn't go into school with the idea that we would come out and be marketable, and we just kind of stumbled through stuff. It was the whole idea of women having careers was new, which is kind of weird to think about now, but people didn't do it. And I definitely wanted to have kids, and I was thrilled to have them when I had them. And I ended up having a career in spite of having 3 kids. But there weren't a lot of people pulling that off back in the day. I mean, the whole idea that childcare, which is still so hard for women. We're way behind in all that stuff. But back then, I couldn't even tell people I had kids, because the assumption would be that I wasn't a serious professional. Yeah. So I had to make an effort to look like I didn't have kids, and to be there earlier and stay later, if I could, which I couldn't always. But now people brag about the work-life balance and blah blah blah. But back then, you hit it. You couldn't tell anybody that you were trying to balance stuff. You just did the work and tried to do it better, right, than anybody else. So you were marketable. That was how we did it.
That's what I'm talking about. So it sounds like we need to be on the lookout for the biography coming from you in the near future, right?
You think?
Oh yeah, why not? Shoot, might be some gems in there. Might be more gems than a necklace in there. Who knows?
Oh, honey, I have so many stories. I do have so many stories. Yeah. And people always want to know, well, do you ever meet any celebrities? Yeah, I lived in LA. Right? Yeah, it's the town whose industry is creating celebrities. That's the company thing that they do, is creating celebrities. So yeah, met a lot of celebrities. Still know some of them too. So yeah, I should write more about that. It's fun to write about.
All right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Indeed, something else to look forward to from the lovely Lynne in the future. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that
Uh-oh.
is if.
Okay, no, go. It's all right. All right.
Like,
I'm here. Okay.
don't be scared. It's not that
No, I'm
bad.
not scared. Too scared. Anyway. Yeah. Hit me, Don. Come on.
So if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Go back to school and study biochemistry so you can be in on the psychedelic drug business that is burgeoning now, that is becoming legal now. How's that?
That's a rare answer, and I love it. It's always good to get the rare answers that are actually applicable to the current year.
Well, because LSD became illegal right when I was going to have my first dose back in the 60s. And I'm glad that I didn't do it then, because of the circumstances that it was just a recreational drug back in that, that was what we were doing. But now we're getting all this fascinating information for example, Michael Pollan's new book, How to Change Your Mind. So he and other people are bringing some legitimacy to this field of what and I'm not sure that there's a better word, and I can't come up with it right now, that means this class of drugs that we used to call psychedelic drugs, that includes MDMA, otherwise known as ecstasy. It includes peyote and mescaline and all kinds of other chemical things. But the information is that you can treat trauma really successfully and PTSD really successfully with 1 or 2 episodes or doses of these psychedelics, handled well, managed well. And it's life-changing. And people who have terminal diseases, who have bad prognosis, can have an episode with LSD, for example, and suddenly they are, just with one treatment, they are no longer afraid of death. They're no longer stressed by their prognosis. And so whatever life they have left becomes good and meaningful. So to me, there's some medicine I would like to know more about. And, maybe even as I've done with the food and my health, experiment with that a little bit, right? See how that goes. And so I think I would be applying to some medical schools or some bioengineering programs, whatever, psychotherapy programs, because I think it's fascinating. And this is just beginning to open up now and become legal in some ways, and I hope legal in more ways in the near future. And I'd like to be part of that. So I'm hoping to stay alive for a while, maybe get involved. Yeah. So 22, though, problem with that, Dom, is you're an idiot when you're 22. Love all y'all out there who are most of us, you get to be 29, 30 and you go, oh boy, I think I've kind of been an idiot. Well, you're right. In your 20s is where the rubber hits the road, and it doesn't look good sometimes. It's not necessarily pretty if you're doing it right. If you're trying, and experimenting and having interesting things happen to you, sometimes you end up all over the sidewalk. But that's what your 20s are all about. And then in your 30s, you're like, oh, maybe I ought to get a real job or whatever. And by the time you're in your 40s, and particularly now, you man, it's like something shifts with your hormones or something, and you become kind of better people, more interesting, more able to listen, more empathetic, more grown up, something in your 40s. And by the time you're in your 60s, the good men, they really start polishing up nice. Yeah, but 20s, not so much. I would not want to be in my 20s again. I mean, yeah, your skin is pretty, you don't have wrinkles and so on, but who cares? If you're an idiot,
Yeah, that's right. The energy, but not the stupidity.
Yeah, there you go. The energy. Thank you. Yes, that would be worth it. Yeah. But the good thing about being my age, yeah, you have less energy, but you're really selective about how you spend it. You're very picky about your friends, your family, right? You start saying no a lot more. They're like, just no. And that can be a really good thing. That can be a great thing. So for all of you 22-year-olds out there, yeah, I hope you are as happy and crazy as I am when you're in your 70s and 80s and so on.
Woohoo! That's right, folks. So cop Lynne's books, and that way you'll have something to look forward to. Indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. You can be hashtag fabulous when you too become 76. That's right. And counting, because it ain't over yet. Far from over.
No, it ain't
Far
over.
from over.
And Dom, who knows what the hell is going to be out there social media wise? This whole podcasting thing is brand new. You're a pioneer and you've only been doing it, what, 4 or 5 years? You're a grand old man of podcasting and you're a baby, darling baby. Who knows what 10 years or 20 years are going to bring us? Who knows? Do you have any idea? Can I ask you that? What do you think we'll be doing in 20 years?
Oh,
You and
gosh.
I meeting, having a conversation. What would that look like? What will be the technology? What will we be talking about?
Oh, well, 20 years from now, I'll actually be 50.
You'll just be
Yeah.
getting ripe.
That's
Yeah.
right. And then the next wind will come in. I won't say second wind. It'll just be another wind. The more winds will come. More evolution, more changing. It'll be live from Infiltrate Your Brain Radio. We may finally have the flying car. We may finally be full Jetsons by then. Maybe. Or at least
Yeah.
closer to it.
And will people be flying those cars as badly as they are driving right now on the freeway? I mean, you think about that, right? It's bad enough that they're doing it at 85 miles an hour on the 280 here. We really want them in the air driving that way? I don't.
Eh, well, the risks will be higher if you're in the air, so maybe folks might smarten up. Although I don't underestimate human stupidity, though. I never
Yeah,
underestimate that.
at your peril, you underestimate human stupidity for sure. Absolutely true.
So, for those of you to keep in contact with you, what's the best way for folks to do so?
My website, lynnebowman.com, LYNNE.BOWMAN.com, and that's got all the social media and everything. You can sign up on my list so I can send you great recipes and good ideas for your good health and good eating. So just lynnebowman.com, and you'll find me. I'm there. Love to hear from people.
Well, there you have it, folks. Send some love letters to the lovely Lynne herself. Check out her site, subscribe to her email list, get those good recipes and the good blogs, or both. It'll be good stuff. We're going to put all those lovely things in the show notes so you can do just that, folks. That's right, indeed. Do it. Be like the Nike shoe. Swoosh and just do it,
And
indeed.
if you have a friend or a loved one who has been diagnosed with diabetes, the subtitle of my book is A Cookbook for Diabetics and the People Who Love Them. So it makes a great gift for anyone in your circle, your family who is diabetic. They help them out. It's hard to figure out how to move forward and get better. And that's why I did the book.
Woohoo! Sounds good in all the neighborhoods. So, any other parting words before we close up shop, Lynne?
Thank you, Don. It's been so sweet meeting you and sharing some time with you and your listeners. Maybe we can do it again. Next book. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The one you want me to
Oh,
write.
oh, yeah, you're welcome back anytime on this podcast.
Thank you. It was fun. So adios from California.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast to do something that'll take yourself to the next level. And for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best.